Welcome and happy viewing to SSTV channel.
The Tagbanwa people are one of the oldest ethnic groups in the Philippines, and can be mainly found in the central and northern Palawan. Research has shown that the Tagbanwa are possible descendants of the Taban man, thus making them one of the original inhabitants of the Philippines. They are a brown-skinned, slim, and straight-haired ethnic group. There are two major classifications based on the geographical location where they can be found. Central Tagbanwas are found in the western and eastern coastal areas of central Palawan. They are concentrated in the municipalities of Aborlan, Quezon, and Puerto Princesa. Calamian Tagbanwa, on the other hand, are found in Baras Coast, Busuanga Island, Coron Island and in some parts of El Nido. These two Tagbanwa subgroups speak different languages and do not exactly have the same customs. Visayan people are a Philippine ethnolinguistic group native to the whole Visayas, the southernmost islands of Luzon and many parts of Mindanao. They are the largest ethnic group in the geographical division of the country, numbering at more than 33,463,654. Those particularly within the Visayas broadly share a sea-based culture with strong Roman Catholic traditions merged with cultural elements through centuries of interaction and intermigrations mainly across the seas of Visayas, Sibuyan, Camotes, Bohol, and Sulu, and in some secluded areas merged with ancient animistic polytheistic influences. Most Visayans are speakers of one or more Bisayan languages, the most widely spoken being Cebuano, followed by Hiligaynon and Waray-Waray. The Tao Sug or Suluk are an ethnic group of the Philippines, Malaysia and Indonesia. The Tao Sug are part of the wider political identity of Muslims of Mindanao, Sulu and Palawan. Most of the Tao Sugs have converted into the religion of Islam, whose members are now more known as the Moro group, who constitute the third largest ethnic group of Mindanao, Sulu and Palawan. The term Tao Sug was derived from two words Tao and Sug meaning people of the current, referring to their homelands in the Sulu archipelago. The Tao Sug in Sabah refer to themselves as Tao Sug but refers to their ethnic group as Suluk, as documented in official documents such as birth certificates in Sabah, which are written Malay. The Blaon are principally located in the province of Davao del Sur where they number about 94,885. They are now widespread in the South Cotabato and Sultan Kudarat areas with an estimated total population of 450,000. Traditionally, the Blaon inhabit the hills behind the west coast of Davao Gulf abutting the Bagobo territory to the north and the watershed of Davao and Cotabato. In very recent times they have moved toward the coastal areas. The same pattern of scattered settlements exists among the group, although the houses generally remain within sight of each other near swidden fields. Each neighborhood is organized under a local datu who has autonomous authority over an area depending on his personal influence. The position is supposedly hereditary and follows a rule of the firstborn assuming the position. The Batak are one of about 140 indigenous peoples of the Philippines. They are located in the northeastern portions of Palawan, a relatively large island in the southwest of the archipelago. The Batak are considered by anthropologists to be closely related to the Aeta of central Luzon, another Negrito tribe. They tend to be small in stature, with dark skin and short curly or kinky hair, traits which originally garnered the Negrito groups their name. Still, there is some debate as to whether the Batak are related to the other Negrito groups of the Philippines or actually to other, physically similar groups in Indonesia or as far away as the Andaman Islands. The Batak have for centuries combined a hunting-gathering lifestyle with seeding of useful food plants, ka-ingin, a slash-and-burn farming method, and trading. The Batak had important trading connections with the maritime peoples of the Sulu region for many centuries of their history. Isneg are the earliest residents of Apayao province and one of the remaining tribes in Luzon. The Isneg are a small ethnolinguistic group inhabiting the wide mountains of the area. The Isneg settlements are mostly along the river, but they do farming up the hills at certain times of year. Their villages are small and houses, close together, for security and companionship. The traditional house sits on 4 large wooden posts and has colorful adornments. There are 2 important rituals that bind the Isneg. Siam is a feast celebrated by an affluent Isneg family, usually accompanied by whining, eating, and dancing. In contrast, Pildap is celebrated by the poorer members of the tribe when a family transfers to another place or when someone seeks healing. The 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 are a tribe who inhabit the southern Sierra Madre and Caraballo Mountains, on the east side of Luzon in the Philippines, primarily in the provinces of Nueva Vizcaya and Nueva Ecija and along the mountain border between the provinces of Quirino and Aurora. They are known as a tribe of headhunters. The 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 tend to inhabit areas close to rivers, as they provide a food source and a means for transportation. 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 men, more often than women, visited distant places. They acquired knowledge of the outside world, amassed experiences there, and returned in order to share their knowledge, adventures, and feelings in a public oratory in order to pass on their knowledge to others. The 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 men received acclaim as a result of their experiences. Because they lacked external experience on which to base knowledge and expression, 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 women had inferior prestige. The Ibanag are an ethnolinguistic minority numbering a little more than 500,000 people, who inhabit the provinces of Cagayan, Isabela and Nueva Vizcaya. They are one of the largest ethnolinguistic minorities in the Philippines. The endonym Ibanag comes from the prefix I, which means people of, and Banag, meaning river. Ibanags speak the same language under the same name. However, due to the Philippine government's attempts at displacing minority languages and imposing Filipino as a lingua franca, the use of Ibanag language has now diminished but remains strong with Ibanags living overseas. Thus, while there may still be Ibanags around, the language is slowly being displaced. In addition to this, many if not most Ibanags speak Ilocano, which has over the years, supplanted Ibanag as the more dominant language in the region. The Sulidnon, also known as the Tumandok, are an indigenous Visayan group of people who reside in the Capiz-Lambunao mountainous area and the antique Iloilo mountain area of Panay in the Visayan Islands of the Philippines. They are one of the two only culturally indigenous group of Visayan language speakers in the western Visayas, along with the Iranon Bukidnon of Antique. Also, they are part of the wider Visayan ethnolinguistic group, who constitute the largest Filipino ethnolinguistic group. Currently, the Sulidnon or Tumandok faces several challenges in their existence, although the local governments of Panay have realized their importance and have begun establishing several projects that help preserve their culture. The Aeta are an indigenous people who live in scattered, isolated mountainous parts of the island of Luzon, the Philippines. These people are considered to be negritos, whose skin ranges from dark to very dark brown, and possessing features such as a small stature and frame, hair of a curly to kinky texture and a higher frequency of naturally lighter color relative to the general population, small nose, and dark brown eyes. They are thought to be among the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines, preceding the Austronesian migrations. In Mindanao, these existing non-Muslim and unchristianized Austronesian indigenous groups are collectively known as the Lumad, a Cebuano term which means native or indigenous. Their Lumad tribes comprise about 13 ethnic groups, which are the Blayan, Bukidnon, Higaonon, Mamanwa, Mandaya, Manobo, Mansaka, Sangir, Subanon, Tagabawa, Tagaka Ulo, Tasadi, and Taboli. Their tribe is generally known for tribal music produced by musical instruments they've created. The collective term Moro people or Bangsamoro people refers to the 13 Islamized ethno-linguistic groups of the Filipino islands and archipelagos of Mindanao, Sulu, and Palawan. As Muslim-majority ethnic groups, they form the largest non-Christian majority population in the Philippines, and comprise about 5% of the country's total population, or 5 million people. Most Moros are followers of Sunni Islam of the Shafi'i madhab. The Muslim Moros originally had an independent state known as the Sulu Sultanate, which once exercised sovereignty over the present-day provinces of Basilan, Palawan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, the eastern part of the Malaysian state of Sabah and North Kalimantan in Indonesia. The Sama Bajau are the dominant ethnic group of the islands of Tawi-Tawi in the Philippines. They are also found in other islands of the Sulu archipelago, coastal areas of Mindanao, northern and eastern Borneo, Sulawesi, and throughout eastern Indonesian islands. In the Philippines, they are grouped together with the religiously similar Moro people. Within the last 50 years, many of the Filipino Sama Bajau have migrated to neighboring Malaysia and the northern islands of the Philippines, due to the conflict in Mindanao. Sama Bajau have sometimes been called the sea gypsies or sea nomads, terms that have also been used for non-related ethnic groups with similar traditional lifestyles, such as the Moken of the Burmese Tai Mergui archipelago and the Orang Laut of southeastern Sumatra and the Riau Islands of Indonesia. The Igorot are any of various ethnic groups in the mountains of northern Luzon, Philippines, all of whom keep, or have kept until recently, their traditional religion and way of life. Some live in the tropical forests of the foothills, but most live in rugged grassland and pine forest zones higher up. The Igorot numbered about 1.5 million in the early 21st century. Their languages belong to the northern Luzon subgroup of the Philippine languages, which belong to the Austronesian family. The Igorots may be roughly divided into two general subgroups. The larger group lives in the south, central and western areas, and is very adept at rice terrace farming. The smaller group lives in the east and north. Prior to Spanish colonization of the islands, the peoples now included under the term did not consider themselves as belonging to a single, cohesive ethnic group. 𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐯 is an alternate name of Tinggian. Tinggian means the people of the mountains. It was originally used to refer to all mountain-dwelling people. These days it is particularly used to refer to a cultural minority group occupying the mountains of Abra. The Tinggian are listed as one of the Cordilleran people called Igorots. Some feature of the culture, customs, traditions, rituals, beliefs and ethnic values are the same with the Igorots. In Abra, they comprise 35% of the total population and occupy about 2/3 of the province's land area. The people live in scattered villages and cover a large area. Most of them live in settlements usually found near river banks. Dwellings are usually built in clusters with rice granary and vegetable patches. 2 or 3 adjacent settlements generally compose a village. Mangyan is the generic name for the 8 indigenous groups found on the island of Mindoro, southwest of the island of Luzon, the Philippines, each with its own tribal name, language, and customs. The total population may be around 280,000, but official statistics are difficult to determine under the conditions of remote areas, reclusive tribal groups and some having little if any outside world contact. The ethnic groups of the island, from north to south, are Araya, Alangan, Tadiawan, Tabud, Buhid, and Hananu. An additional group on the south coast is labeled Ratanyon. They appear to be intermarried with lowlanders. The group known on the east of Mindoro as Bangon may be a subgroup of Tabud, as they speak the western dialect of that language. They also have a kind of poetry which is called the Ambahan. The Maranao people is the term used by the Philippine government to refer to the southern tribe who are the people of the lake, a predominantly Muslim Lanao province region of the Philippine island of Mindanao. They are known for their artwork, weaving, wood, plastic and metal crafts and epic literature, the Darangan. They are ethnically and culturally closely related to the Iranan and Maguindanao, all three groups being denoted as speaking Danao languages and giving name to the island of Mindanao. The original endonym of the ancestral Maranao is believed to be Iranan or Iranaoan. This group later diverged, resulting in the modern Maguindanao and the Iranan people, while the ancestral Iranans who stayed in Lake Lanao became known as the Maranao. These two ethnic groups, Iranan and Maranao, are still related to each other, share similar cultures and both speak a one language. They either call it Maranao or Iranan language which belongs to Danao languages. The 𝐬𝐸𝐵𝑇ans are a Filipino ethnolinguistic group predominant in the islands of Batanes of the Philippines. Their ethnogenesis is unclear, their origins remain untraced among scholars, but they are known to be an Austronesian group, related to neighboring Ilocanos on purely linguistic basis. The culture of the 𝐬𝐸𝐵𝑇ans is partly influenced by the environmental condition of Batanes. Unlike the old-type nipa huts common in the Philippines, 𝐬𝐸𝐵𝑇ans have adopted their now famous stone houses made of coral and limestone, designed to protect against the hostile climate. 𝐬𝐸𝐵𝐇ans already lived in Batanes before the Spaniards arrived in the Philippines in the 16th century, establishing fortresses known as Ajong, and lived autonomously long thereafter. The Ibaloi or Nabaloi is an indigenous ethnic group found in the northern Philippines. The Ibaloi occupy the southeastern two-thirds of Benguet, particularly the municipalities of Cabayan, Bukid, Sablan, Tublai, La Trinidad, Tuba and Itogon, and the southern portions of Kapampangan and Atak. Called Ipaway by the Kalangayas, the name is derived from those who live in the grasslands, with Paway as the Kalangaya term for grassland. In Ibaloi mythology, this group's origin is traced back to a couple in Mount Pulag who survived the Great Flood that Kabunian sent to punish the wicked people. This couple bore many children who intermarried, multiplied and descended to the fertile valleys of Benguet, including Tinik, to become the ancestors of the present-day Ibaloi. Subanon is a tribe indigenous to the Zamboanga Peninsula area, particularly living in the mountainous areas of Zamboanga del Sur and Misamis Occidental, Mindanao Island, Philippines. The Subanon people speak the Subanon language. The name means, a person or people of the river. These people originally lived in the lowlying areas. However, due to disturbances and competitions from other settlers like the Muslims, and migrations of Cebuano speakers to the coastal areas attracted by the inviting land tenure laws, further pushed the Subanon into the interior. Subanons generally refer to themselves as a whole. They distinguish themselves from each other by their roots or point of origin. These are based on names of rivers, lakes, mountains, or locations. The Waray people are a subgroup of the larger ethnolinguistic group Bisaya people, who constitute the largest Filipino ethnolinguistic group in the country. Their primary language is the Waray language, an Austronesian language native to the islands of Samar, Leyte and Biliran, which together comprise the eastern Visayas region of the Philippines. Waray people inhabit the whole island of Samar where they are called Samareños, the northern part of the island of Leyte where they are called Leyteños, and the island of Biliran. On Leyte Island, the Waray people occupy the northern part of the island, separated from the Cebuano language-speaking Leyteños by a mountain range in the middle of the island. The Eskaya is the collective name for the members of a cultural minority found in Bohol, Philippines, which is distinguished by its cultural heritage, particularly its literature, language, dress and religious observances. After the Eskaya first came to public attention in 1980, these cultural practices were the subject of intense speculation on the part of local journalists and amateur historians who made diverse claims about the ethnolinguistic status of the Eskaya people. The unique Eskayan language and writing system in particular has been a source of fascination and controversy. Some journalists argued that the Eskaya were historically displaced from the Middle East, while others suggested that the community was a cult speaking an invented language.
Thank you for watching. See you on the next episode here on BMSSS TV channel.